Are you dreaming of a backyard that's not only beautiful, but also functional? Whether you've got a small urban space or a large suburban yard, creating a landscape that feels both inviting and practical can sometimes feel overwhelming. But you know what? It doesn't have to be. Today, I'm going to help you transform your yard into something that truly works for you, no matter its size. In this video, I'll walk you through key design principles, landscaping tips, and ways to add personality to your outdoor space. But the best part? Next week, we'll be taking everything we discussed today and apply it to a 3D model so you can see exactly how these ideas can work in your yard. Whether you're planning a big redesign or just looking to make a few tweaks, you're going to walk away with practical tips and inspiration you can start using right away. Let's get started. So, the first thing we need to talk about are the core design principles that can help turn any yard, big or small, into a beautiful and functional space. And there are three main characteristics I always focus on when designing a yard: balance, unity, and proportion. Let's start with balance. This is really about mixing different elements in a way that feels harmonious. In any yard, you've got soft elements, things like plants and greenery, and hard elements, such as patios, walkways, or furniture. Too much greenery, and the space might feel wild and untamed, which could be beautiful, but a bit overwhelming. On the other hand, if you've got too much hardscape, your yard can end up feeling too rigid or cold. So, it's all about finding that balance where both the soft and hard elements complement each other. And balance doesn't always mean symmetry. You don't have to have matching flower beds on either side of your yard, but you do want to create a sense of equilibrium. For example, if you have a large tree on one side of your yard, you could balance it out with a smaller seating area, or a cluster of plants on the other side. It's about creating a natural flow that feels pleasing to the eye. Now, let's talk about unity. This is all about making sure your design feels cohesive, like everything belongs together. You don't want your yard to feel like a bunch of different, unrelated areas thrown together. Instead, you want it to feel like one continuous, connected space. And one of the easiest ways to create unity is by repeating certain elements. Maybe you use the same type of stone for your patio and pathways, or repeat the same color palette in your plants and outdoor furniture. When everything feels tied together, your yard will feel much more intentional and inviting. Another way to create unity is through color. If you're going for a natural, serene vibe, stick with earthy tones like greens, browns, and soft blues. But if you want something bolder and more dynamic, you can incorporate brighter colors through flowers, cushions, or even a statement piece like a bright garden bench. Just be mindful of how the colors work together. You want to choose a palette that flows well throughout the space, rather than having too many competing colors that distract from the overall design. And finally, let's talk about proportion. This is a key characteristic, especially if you're working with a smaller yard. It's all about making sure the size of the elements you're using matches the size of your space. If you've got a small yard, you probably don't want to plant a huge tree that will overwhelm the space. Instead, go for smaller trees or shrubs that won't take over. But in a larger yard, you can afford to go bigger with features like a pergola, or even a large water feature to serve as a focal point. But proportion isn't just about the size of your plants or furniture. It also applies to the overall layout of your yard. In a small space, you might want to keep pathways narrow and stick to compact seating options that don't crowd the area. In a larger yard, you can widen those paths and create larger seating areas that give people plenty of space to spread out. So, always keep proportion in mind as you plan out your yard design. All right, now let's get into the heart of your yard, your landscaping elements. This is where your yard really comes to life. And there are a few key characteristics that will make a big difference: texture, seasonal interest, and practicality. Let's start with texture. One of the easiest ways to add visual interest to your yard is by incorporating plants with different textures. So, instead of planting a bunch of similar-looking plants, try mixing it up. You could combine soft, flowing ornamental grasses with spikier plants like succulents or evergreens. This contrast adds depth and makes your yard feel more dynamic, even when some of your plants aren't blooming. And speaking of bloom times, let's talk about seasonal interest. You want your yard to look great all year round, not just in the spring and summer. So, when you're choosing your plants, think about how they'll look in each season. Maybe you pick a few evergreens that keep their color in the winter, some flowering shrubs that bloom in the spring, and a few trees that turn a beautiful shade of red or orange in the fall. By layering in plants with different bloom times and seasonal characteristics, you'll keep your yard looking vibrant no matter the time of year. Now, on to practicality. I know we all love the idea of having a gorgeous garden, But it's important to think about how much maintenance you're willing to do. If you're not the type to spend hours each week tending to your yard, opt for low-maintenance plants, succulents, ornamental grasses, and drought-tolerant plants like lavender are all great options that look beautiful, but don't require constant care. But if you're someone who enjoys gardening and has the time for it, you can certainly go for more demanding plants that may need extra attention. And don't forget about the practical function of your yard. Is this space mainly for entertaining? Do you need a large area for kids to run around and play? Or maybe you're just looking for a peaceful spot to relax with a book. Whatever your goals, make sure your landscaping choices reflect how you plan to use the space. For example, if you've got kids or pets, you might want to install turf grass or gravel in high-traffic areas to keep things durable and low maintenance. Now let's talk about hardscaping. This is where you can add structure and functionality to your yard. Things like patios, pathways, and outdoor features are key to making your yard not just look good, but also work for you. So let's dive into a few important characteristics to keep in mind: durability, function, and accessibility. When it comes to your patio and pathways, durability is essential. You want materials that can stand up to the elements, whether that's rain, snow, or intense sun. Concrete, natural stone, and pavers are all excellent options for most climates. If you live in an area with a lot of rain, consider using permeable materials that allow water to drain through, preventing any pooling or flooding in your yard. But in warmer climates, you might want to consider materials like wood decking or composite materials for your patio. These give your yard a more natural, organic feel while still being durable and long-lasting. Plus, they're great for creating a cozy outdoor space where you can relax and enjoy the weather. Now let's talk about outdoor features. Things like fire pits, water features, and lighting can really take your yard to the next level. A fire pit, for example, is a great focal point for your yard. It adds both warmth and ambiance, making it perfect for evening gatherings with friends and family. And when it comes to lighting, you'll want to think about both function and style. Pathway lights, string lights, or even solar-powered garden lights can add a magical touch to your yard while also improving safety and visibility. If you're considering adding a water feature, you don't have to go big. A simple fountain or small pond can create a peaceful, soothing atmosphere. Just make sure it fits in with the overall scale of your yard. You don't want a large pond dominating a small space, but in a larger yard, it could serve as a beautiful centerpiece. Lastly, don't forget about accessibility. You want your yard to be enjoyable and accessible for everyone. If you've got different levels or uneven terrain, consider adding wide steps or even a ramp to make it easier to navigate. And be mindful of the materials you choose for your pathways and patio. Slip-resistant materials are a smart choice, especially in areas that get a lot of rain or snow dot. This ensures your yard is both beautiful and safe for everyone to enjoy. Sustainability is more important than ever in yard design, and the good news is, you can create an eco-friendly yard without sacrificing style. Let's talk about a few ways to make your yard more sustainable: low-water gardens, rain gardens, and smart technology. One of the easiest ways to make your yard more sustainable is by designing a low-water garden. By choosing drought-tolerant plants like succulents, native grasses, or lavender, you can significantly cut down on your water usage without sacrificing beauty. These plants thrive with less water, and they're often more resilient to different weather conditions, making them a great choice for busy homeowners. Another option is creating a rain garden. A rain garden is essentially a shallow depression in your yard designed to collect runoff from your roof or driveway. Instead of allowing water to just flow into storm drains, the rain garden collects it and allows it to slowly soak into the ground. Not only does this help reduce flooding, but it also helps replenish groundwater supplies. And the best part? Rain gardens can be filled with beautiful, water-loving plants that thrive in this type of environment. And let's not forget about smart technology. Installing a smart irrigation system in your yard is a great way to reduce water waste. These systems can adjust your watering schedule based on the weather, so you're not overwatering during rainy periods or underwatering during dry spells. Plus, they can be controlled right from your phone, making yard maintenance that much easier. And if you're looking to save energy, solar-powered lights are a fantastic option for keeping your yard well lit without increasing your energy bill. Now that we've talked about some key design principles and characteristics, let's take a look at a few real-life examples to see how these ideas come together. In this first example, we've got a small urban yard. The owners focused on using raised garden beds to create height and texture, which really helps make the space feel larger. They combine different plant textures, like soft grasses, and more structured succulents, to create visual interest throughout the year. And for balance, they tied the space together with a small patio made from natural stone that complements the stone used in their garden edging. The result is a cohesive, well-balanced space that feels much bigger than it actually is. In contrast, here's a large suburban yard where the focus was on creating unity and scale. We designed a fire pit area with a natural stone patio, and we extended that same stone into the pathways leading to the garden beds. Using the same material throughout the yard helps tie everything together, creating a sense of unity. The fire pit serves as a focal point for gatherings, while the native plants we chose are both beautiful and low maintenance, making this yard both functional and sustainable. So, whether you've got a small yard or a large space, the key to a successful design is focusing on balance, unity, and proportion, while also thinking about practical elements like sustainability and accessibility. And next week, we'll be taking everything we've discussed today and applying it to a 3D model so you can see how these ideas come to life in real time. You'll get a much clearer picture of how these principles can work in your own yard, whether you're adding a new feature or completely redesigning the space. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's video, and let me know in the comments. What's the one feature you're most excited to add to your yard this year? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.